All right, Reject Squad, let's deploy.
Reject Squad, great.
So, Tio, in the last part, you had something you wanted to mention regarding Namor and Maleficent?
Well, yeah, when the first couple of rumors about the Disney Plus Kingdom Hearts series surfaced before the actual supposed confirmation, keep in mind the time we're recording it's still a bit up in the air, so for all I know it's still bullshit. But in case there were people speculating it would be live action, and was like, oh no, we're gonna take advantage of that for the Disney Worlds, but actually based on the live action version of the Disney Worlds instead of the proper animated part, and that would give an excuse to the war to include the Angelina Jolie Maleficent.
I don't know. I know if Disney's the one making it, according to the rumor at least. I seriously doubt Nomura would have that much control over it, considering Nomura.
Even so, I dread to imagine what how much the budget will be bloated, considering that unless they have actual, we keep relying on the sound alike, how they did for a couple of the characters that they borrow essentially from Disney Infinity, for example, because the amount of star power required for having returning characters from these existing Disney properties is sometimes staggering. And 3 is a bit all over the place with that. Some people return, others don't. It's a bit of a mess.
They'll probably take up half the bloody budget.
I just hope.
That's what I meant.
I just really hope it's an animated show. Like, please, I'm so tired of things that should clearly be animated being turned into live action for no reason.
It's technically potentially even worse when it comes to acting for my country, because when it comes to proper Disney properties, half of the voice actors that voice the characters are dead, and the others are pretty much celebrities or even higher up people that are basically impossible to recruit, quote unquote, these days. To give an idea, ideally speaking, because it doesn't have to be in the video game so far technically, if hypothetically speaking there's a war based on Chicken Little and it includes the mayor character, the mayor in the Italian dub was actually voiced by a very prominent politician. Yes, we actually got a politician in my country to voice the fucking character. So imagine that happening.
Well, a politician costs less to get to voice act than an actual celebrity.
Yeah, but yeah, that would require either Disney or Square to be aware of Chicken Little in the first place.
They managed to create a lightning in a bottle scenario with Tron for the second game, and it actually managed to work. At this point, I don't even know what's reality.
Well, people actually like Tron.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Chicken Little was in the Kingdom Hearts 2 because at the time it was the most recent Disney animated film.
No, not just that. There is an actual reason. They actually specified in one of the interviews and everything. It was included to boost the popularity of the movie because it was released in Japan at the time.
Well, yeah, of course. Like I said, it was the most recent one, so obviously it was a bit of cross promotion, obviously. But nowadays, Disney doesn't even acknowledge that movie's existence for the most part. It's kind of becoming the new Black Cauldron.
Is it available on Disney Plus?
Yes.
Even
well, obviously.
Consider it acknowledged.
From what I've heard, even Tron might be a bit of a problem. Apparently, the actor who played, Tron, Bruce Boxleitner, apparently he's done with playing the character now. So.
Honestly, Jova, considering...
I'm talking about what had happened until that point, which was like 2005 or 2003, 2005. At that point, Tron had like 1 or 2 minor video games, and there was like a small cult following. One of the most famous early YouTube videos is that fat guy with the mustache dressed in a Tron costume. But Kingdom Hearts 2 was the thing that actually boosted back the popularity of the franchise and allowed things like the Tron Legacy to happen.
It's that's the thing, Joe. I don't personally count putting it on Disney Plus because, well, they need content. The more content, the better. So of course they're gonna bust out all their catalog, regardless of how much they don't care about it.
Consider this, Pedro. There are some things that they actually did not put on Disney Plus. That is them not acknowledging that.
Well, they can't just put everything all at once, otherwise there would be nothing more to put over the years.
Yeah, they need to create interest over time. Although, keep in mind, I'm not sure how many people who are jumping on to wait for the release of Schnookums and Meat. So
we know they'll never put Song of the South in there.
Don't Aren't you forgetting the greatest Disney show ever made?
The Weekend.
Bonkers?
Oh, I thought you were gonna say the Weekenders again.
I did like Bonkers back in the day, but yeah, I mean, honestly,
That would be. I would hate to live in a world where Disney considers Bonkers more deserving to be put on Disney Plus than the Weekenders.
Honestly, I have a better idea. Why
fan
not?
of Bonkers?
Honestly, I have a better idea. Why not just put both of them there? Like, the more content, the better. Like, like it or not, there are people that grew up with Bonkers, and they should have the rights to rewatch it if they want to. I mean, I don't care for the Disney Channel live action shit from the 2000s, but I don't want to deprive that generation of their stuff.
I'm gonna be honest. I haven't seen the show, but I don't really mind, say, the Even Stevens movie.
I don't know anything about that, so.
This is Dr. Wyson. Please, I'm asking you now. There are Locust approaching Denise immediately.
All right, to bring this back into here, though.
Yeah.
Right now we're looking for Dr. Wizen. He was supposed to be somewhere in this building taking care of some orphans. So let's see if we can.
Let me guess. The orphans are dead.
Well, we don't know yet, do we? Let's see.
Well, it's a darker, gritty game. Of course, they're going to be dead.
Well, it doesn't always have to end up in tragedy. They can still be okay.
True. I mean,
I haven't heard any mention of kids in any of the other games.
But yeah, to expand upon my thoughts from the previous one, like the previous part, like it's just again let's go back to Gears 1 for a bit. You know, in Gears 1, they took full advantage of not just the in-game banter, but even the cutscenes to properly establish the differentiating personalities of the Delta Squad. You know, the Baird is the tails of the group. Marcus is the gruff sergeant leader. Dom is the more down-to-earth guy. And Cole is, Cole. So they're very distinct characters that you could not possibly mistake for one another. You know? Can you honestly tell me that you can name distinctive noticeable character differences between these characters that we're playing as right now? Jova? Can you tell me any major differences between these characters compared to the Delta Squad?
I can.
Hey! He asked me, Dweebs.
Yeah, let him respond. You can respond after this.
The bearded guy here seems to be more reserved than Marcus does, in the sense where he seems to be more of a rules follower, whereas Marcus, while he could be a rules follower, was a lot more throwing his own creativity here and there. The girl, she seems to be there.
Exactly. Thank you for proving my point.
Though, I did point out that Beardy does have his own differences there. Tay, he's his own character. You know, he'll grow into that. Sadly, he'll die in Gears 2. And the big bald guy, he seems to just be the big rug.
The guy that was just there to die in the first game.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It's like, because like, unlike with it's not even just the fact that the dialogue is not as witty, it's also the fact that the characters don't really have any major differentiating personalities to make them. Go ahead.
I'll give credit. I feel like they have enough different personalities that they can bounce off of each other well enough. It's just, I think what they're lacking in is the dialogue, per se. Like, I can definitely tell that there's character to them, but the dialogue does not really do them any favors.
What about you, Diz? What do you think?
One of them, the leader doesn't wear a hat, so I can say he's more proud of his chrome dome than Marcus is.
Yay, I guess.
Also, he's shorter. haven't got much to work with here.
Exactly. That's the big problem. This is basically one of the big problems the Gear series face. Okay. Tickers. This what you're seeing, Dwebs, is basically a taste of what's to come, because starting right after the campaign of Gears 3 ends, and starting with the post launch single player DLC, Gears of War characters in terms of writing took a real downgrade, and it's not gonna get better from here, because Gears of War Judgment is also very much like this. Gears of War 4 even puts it out even down a notch, because the characters in this DLC and in Judgment are just mediocre. The new cast of 4, however, they're so lame. But whatever.
It's a bad thing when I can actually list off more character traits from bloody Pepsi Man.
Really?
Yeah, he's really clumsy, but he's also very determined to get those cans of Pepsi to his customers, regardless of whatever gets in his way.
Yeah.
See, that's more character traits than I can think of this guy. What I can come up with this guy is that he's proud of his cranium.
Or the original, yeah, they really struck they really had a lightning in a bottle situation with the original Zeta Squad's cast, because they were such a really cool group of characters that were, again, and they needed to, because like I said, the plots of Gears games are not exactly all that interesting. They're just basically go kill the Locust type of stories. So it's up to the characters to carry the stories, and they did a good job in making some really cool characters that are always fun to watch. When you don't have that, the lackluster nature of the storyline becomes way more apparent, because there's nothing distracting us from it. Because it's much easier to, like, because when you break it down to its core essentials, the Gears of War 3 storyline is nothing to write home about. But the reason it never comes across as lackluster is because you're watching a really good, satisfying death for Dom, and of course Marcus finally taking down the Locust Queen. And in such a satisfying way. Again, the game does a great job distracting you from any possible lackluster elements. This DLC, however, doesn't do that good of a job. Like Jova said, the dialogue doesn't really do the characters any favors. There's no witty quips that really come across as genuinely witty.
Let me also bring up another issue with this DLC campaign. The set pieces are not the best. Again, maybe it's because it's a DLC campaign and one on a limited budget, but it does one thing Gears of War excels at: it's having good set pieces in the main campaigns in there, which help give more memorable parts in the story as well. Like, for the first game, there's the fight against Rom. For the second game, there's the giant worm and the creepy as all heck hospital. And for free, well, there's a whole bevy of them, from the boat scene to the flight scene.
The scene where you're driving in that truck for that road.
Yeah, and Dom's sacrifice scene. The scene where we're introduced to human lambents here and there. Like, again,
there's more stuff happening. There's more stuff happening in it. Yeah.
Whereas here, for pretty much most of this, we'll be in this one town location thing. So I think the best way to describe this DLC campaign is that it feels like the first act of a story. We don't know as much about the characters as we would want to, but hey, surely later down the road we'll get to learn more, except, because this is much shorter, they sort of have to squeeze everything in there.
Yeah, this is a 3-hour campaign that doesn't really work in that sense.
What kind of post main story DLC I actually kind of like?
What?
Stuff like we got in the Force Unleashed games, where they were more like what if scenarios you could do, like say, what if you turned Link to the dark side, or what if you killed Han and Chewbacca before they could blow up the satellite that was powering the Death Star 2's shield or something.
So basically really cool what if scenarios.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, actually.
That does sound pretty cool. Again, I think it seems like they wanted to make this tied to the main campaign, and I can appreciate the effort, But I feel like, I think the issue is I think they tried to do their normal writing tactics, which works for a full-blown game. But with here, it feels more like they wrote out a full story and then basically chopped out everything that comes after the first act of said story. Because, like I said, I think the best way to describe this DLC campaign is that it feels like a glorified first act of a story. Incomplete, and it feels like the campaign itself is a good introduction to the characters, but nothing more than just an introduction. Never the getting to know them fully throughout here and there. Oh, hey, Tio.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on it? We were
we were discussing how we're not impressed with these new characters so far. What are your thoughts?
It feels a bit weird, I'll admit, to the fact that it's kind of similar to what Joe was just saying. The fact that these seem to be like the prologue of a new story, but obviously these characters even went nowhere. Keep in mind, it's nice to see familiar faces like Tai and Kim. See
and
where
Jace?
they were before. Yes, and Jace, I suppose. To an extent, at least. But I don't know. I also get the idea that this should have been an entire separate game on its own. Similar to, considering this is supposed to be a prequel and it's also tied to Microsoft, I'm gonna take a wild guess and say that aside from Tai and Kim, all these other people die at the end of this. A bit similar to what Halo Reach does as a prequel. It's an entire game that focuses on the team that's sent to put back in motion the events that will lead eventually to the start of a franchise, and all of them die at the end. Classic type of story that will be reprised in other different medias, like Crisis Core, for example, from the 7 compilation, or Star Wars Rogue One, that tells the story about the spies who found the plans for the Death Star.
Well, technically, we still don't know if these two died. That in Mira's beginning didn't show them dying.
Actually, that's why I said it was a wild guess from me, but considering Halo Reach was the release kind of around the same time, kind of get the idea that Epic Games wanted to ride the same train.
We'll see.
Oh yeah, would not surprise me. Gears was something of a friendly rivalry with Halo.
Alright.
Oh no, not this again.
Oh yeah.
Why?
Because, Teo, this was back in the day when Gears also had horror elements. Unlike what the
I want to shoot things. I don't want to be scared.
Well, but we gotta separate this from the Walter. We gotta separate this from the run-of-the-mill shooter somehow.
I suppose. I guess.
It's like Resident Evil. You can shoot things and be terrified
Please
out
stop
of your
targeting the person who shoots at you, sir. Thank you.
Well, Teo, if it helps you, there will be no elements of this of any kind in the Coalition's games.
I think that the robots enemies of 4 are not scary in the slightest. Not even as like a Terminator impeccable figure.
I guess if you're a 5-year-old who doesn't like who finds robots scary, maybe.
Great.
Okay, Tio. Were you scared by the robots in Cooler's Revenge?
The big empty stars books? Not really.
Then you won't be scared of the bots in Gears 4.
Great.
You're not really... Well, okay, to be fair, unlike with Cooler's Revenge, you're not really meant to be scared by the DBs. You're just...
That's my point. Is like... Well,
yeah, but in Cooler's Revenge...
By these robots.
Yeah, but in Cooler's Revenge you can tell you're supposed to, find them intimidating and shit. Whereas in the DBs, they're not... Even the characters themselves just treat them like cannon fodder. Like, so you can tell you're not just... You're just supposed to see them as... obstacles to overcome, really. Like, the game itself doesn't care about the DBs, so...
That's my point, because that's kind of how the bots in Gears 4 are treated.
Like I said, the DBs. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh,
God.
When you said DBs, I thought you meant Dragon Balls.
No.
Right. Oh, right. I forgot.
It's not.
Three doors.
It's
What's
not in,
behind each of them.
It's not initials. It's the word D-E-E and then the other word B-E-E.
There was someone dunked in the basketball hole. Come on, really?
Yeah, sorry to you.
Get dunked on.
Deserted and no sign of life. No.
Oh, so what machine is this?
We need to unblock the bleachers.
It's something that we can use to unblock the bleachers.
And it's dunked ass first into it. Jeez.
Wow.
Just a little bit of dark humor too.
I know. It's interesting to note.
It is.
This
Honestly,
is back when Gears still had its balls.
At least, but keep in mind, at least it has also, and also the brains, not just the balls, because these, aside from the humor, these also gives a bit of not shock value, but you know, it's still dark humor because it's still a corpse that you see to, you know, to give the tension. Because a game recently that I recorded, which we'll see in the future, has instead for the quote-unquote shock value, a gratuitous corpse being hanged on a tree that is supposed to be taken super serious and just disgusting, but all in due time.
So yeah, it's amazingly how quick I'm able to saw through those big crates. But
I know, right? It's like true butter.
there you go. Let's unlock the bleachers.
Cool.
That did it.
All right, this should be smooth sailing from here, right?
Interesting.
Totally.
Reclinable seat posts for the spectators. That's a cool futuristic concept. Oh, there's another one being dunked in the other basketball. Oh, let me guess, Berserker. Of course. And we don't have a Hammer of Dawn.
Nope.
Great.
Even if we did, we're not exactly in the open.
Stay away from her.
Remember, we need sunlight to use it.
But it's interesting
Well,
that...
no, not sunlight. It's just that, remember, it operates based on satellite signals. So
Yeah. Find it interesting that a thing that also happened in Ultimate Edition, that the characters refer to the Berserks with a female pronoun.
which is interesting because there's not any distinction between any of the Berserkers. They all look the same. So I don't even know how
Maybe
they
the
would do
females
that.
are
The only female Locust, quote unquote, is the Queen that we saw. So.
The Queen is the only female Locust we ever, like, clearly female Locust that we see. Like, all the others can be of any genre for all any gender for all I know.
Yeah. Okay, maybe we got rid of it.
You know what's also the problem, Jova? Now that since you brought up the dialogue, it's not just that the dialogue is lackluster, like you said. It's also that there's a distinct lack of it. There's not that much banter. Like, speak more, talk.
I
You know?
really am wondering if, that may have had to do with them running out of budget for this DLC campaign.
Or just rushing it.
It does feel like a combination of the two.
I get the feeling it would have been better
if-
off if they just focus on the multiplayer because because this particular DLC campaign feels a bit half-assed.
I guess it gave a good lesson for the future because, as far as we know, the coalition didn't do DLC small campaigns for 4 and 5.
No.
And like
There
we
you go,
said
then.
before, at the very least, gameplay-wise, it feels like
Whoa.
you're getting your money's worth for this DLC campaign.
Oh, gameplay-wise,
Wow.
yes, but story-wise, not really. Okay, so we don't have the Hammer of Dawn like Teo said, so we have to find an alternate way of killing this Berserker. So we're
Burning
going
truck. It's one weakness.
to try to burn him alive, basically.
Look at our cool flaming effects on a car thanks to the Unreal Engine.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Which
obviously,
Unreal Engine was this?
free.
Free.
Three.
At the
Alright,
time.
so
4 was released slightly after the new generation
Yeah,
of consoles arrived.
basically that's
Because
Unreal Engine 2 for the PS2 era, 3 for the PS3 era, 4 for... It really goes with those numbers, actually.
Because
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat X was still using Unreal 3, if I recall. 11 is the first to use Unreal 4.
Mother school is deserted and no sign of Wyson. Now what?
So wait, you're telling me that this trip was pointless?
Wait, hold on. The trail may not have
And
gone
there we
forward.
go.
The trails.
We haven't officially gotten back to where we started, but we're almost there.
Hi, Marcus.
Yo.
His busy Marcus is like, really, you're
Stop
watching
that.
this?
Chapter
Under the
4,
Shadow.
Under the Shadow, yeah.
Stop justifying your title.
Under Rom Shadow.
Stop it.
Very good, Jova.
Does he tell anybody that he can hear the Queen's thoughts?
I'm pretty sure they don't really care.
It's telepathy, Dwebs. Only the Locust can hear, not the humans can't.
Why not just say, "Hey guys, I know where they're headed. Don't go that way," or something like that.
Oh.
Well,
Oh, you mean like... Wait, hold on. You're asking if the Queen can say that?
No, I mean like, you can hear her orders, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So why not just say to the rest of his comrades?
Oh, that. I'm assuming, Dwebs, that when she's telling that, she's telling it to all of them at the same time, so they can all hear. I'm guessing that's how it is.
Well, keep in mind, for some specific lines, she does refer to Ram with, his name and all, like, General, do this, or Ram, do that. So I do wonder, keep in mind, I'm still running on my idea that it functions similar to the hive mind of the Tyrannies of Warhammer 40k, where it's a sort of connected synapses, very in a sense, but it's similar to what Pedro just said. All of them hear the Queen at the same time. Just each of them is receiving specific instructions because she's that psychic in that kind of sense. It's all lore stuff, but I do wonder if it's ever explained in the comics or not, which I guess I'll have to check it out. But no, there's also the fact that keep in mind, Dreams, it might as well just be the fact that since Ram is a high-ranking Locust, he receives the order and his actions basically points the other troops to the general direction and move them.
It also basically boils down to the fact that the primary task that the Locusts are doing right now is basically colonizing the city for themselves, taking the city for themselves, basically. So the Locusts already know in advance what they're supposed to do. Ram is basically the one leading the charge, basically, and he's getting the orders. Maybe the idea is that he's getting orders from the Queen, so he's doing what he can to stop all the humans, and the other Locusts, they already know what they're supposed to do anyway, so they don't need any further instructions. Maybe that's the case.
It's also tied to how bizarre the behavior of the Locust is. They do possess some degree of intelligence, and some of them seems to be more intelligent than others. Ram clearly is a league above anyone else of the basic troops. But we still don't seem to properly display some kind of enough intelligence to provide a proper civilization, and they're just bent on war and violent actions.
There you go. Basically, they're creating all these helping out all these tunnels so that all the Locust spiders can travel easy. So basically, it's a mission to help. Basically, more like a strategic mission of sorts. If you go back to, that's another thing. This is actually the section tier that I was talking about. Later, we're going to go through this section again as the Zeta Squad, and
to recapture it.
To recapture it, yes. Which means this is the last section where we'll play as Rom. So, like I said, the whole you can play as Rom thing. It's kind of nice at first, but it's not that fleshed out.
It does showcase the fact that this DLC was more experimental than anything. Type of storytelling, different playable characters. I
wonder if it would have been better if we just played as Rom throughout the entire
time.
I would have preferred that, to be honest.
I wonder
just
if maybe
expand his moveset and make it entirely about him.
I wonder if maybe they were worried that, Rom was a bit of a gamble. So
there you go. Now you can see the animation properly.
Stabby. Yeah.
That's like a Mortal Kombat type fatality.
Yeah, it does the same thing for... I don't forgot if it says Ultra, but it does the same thing also in Killer Instinct.
Yeah, it's one of his trademark moves. I'm actually wondering if in Killer Instinct they actually replicate his killing animation for Kim in the first game.
Well, if I recall, I will give you a trailer after we're done today just to see, because it's been a while, to be honest, and I gotta admit, back then, since I wasn't that much into Gears, Ram was the DLC the season character that I was caring the least about, but now I better just check out again and see how it is.
Oh no, I can definitely see ROM working well in Killer Instinct.
Honestly, I think it works better as a choice for the Gears character rather than having someone like Marcus, because not just that. Oh, let me drop the cutscene. Oh no, our helicopter in a Gears game. What are we going to do?
We are going to surprisingly
Oh, it just drops
not
the
blow
troops.
it
I
up.
love the troops just spawned outside the helicopter instead of falling out of it.
Look at that! The helicopter didn't get blown up for once.
But yeah, ranged characters in Killer Instinct don't work properly. Well, unless you type into particular special moves, like Fulgor's laser chest is very peculiar. It's not like a move that you can spam like that. So basically, a character like Marcus with a proper ranged weapon that's mostly consistent. Yes, the Lancer has the melee option, but for physical attacks, it's only limited. There's only much you can do so far. With Ram instead, you have more options at your disposal, and you can mix match with the moveset. So definitely understood that. It's kind of the same thought that went into choosing the Arbiter for the Halo character instead of Master Chief.
Alright. And now, let's continue. Charge!
Actually, I forgot if we mentioned who voices Ram. Let me check. Wouldn't be surprised if it's the Bradley Baker.
Again,
Oh
it's
yeah, didn't we mention that actually during our first Gears commentary?
I forgot, so I'm just checking.
It also boils down to that this overall mediocrity when it comes to the writing and characterization that you're experiencing right now. Get used to it, because this will be the standard form from now on. Because
This
Tom
is
Bissell
also-
takes over in Judgment, and it's an entire game of this, basically.
That's also the other thing, Bo. Like, with just a bit of expansion in gameplay, Ram being focused entire Ram will eliminate that to begin with, because Ram doesn't speak a lot, doesn't have the great personality. But if it's fun to play, it's essentially the Doom experience. You just beat the shit out of everyone and have fun with it.
Okay, new theory. Originally, this was going to be just something centered on RAM, but then the devs considered that making it just RAM might be a bit risky, and to play it safe, they added in, the familiar gameplay of the Gears.
And created these
Some
new
people
characters
crazy.
out of nowhere.
Also, the cog armor and the body type model was easier to recycle.
I'm guessing these characters are expanded more upon in the comics. Maybe.
I
don't know.
I'll look it up.
Our comms are fucked. But we have to reestablish.
Might as well.
If we're gonna find any survivors.
Time for cedar hunting. Like boar, only uglier.
What he said.
That
Oh, you have boars on Sarah?
You see what I mean? The one-liners in this DLC are not as good. Like, they're
We were right, Joe. I think we did mention, but yeah, it's the Bradley Baker.
Yep. I
Well,
mean, it
it's not the
sounds...
first time D. Bradley Baker's voiced.
that's that's the interesting thing too, because G. Bradley Baker does mostly of the noises, because Fretata Shore it plays Baird. So
Okay.
although maybe he might do the Berserker as well, most likely. I'm not entirely.
It's interesting because that's the thing. The more time passes, the more we discover that Feta the Shore is also good at doing just normal type of roles in voices. It's just that he's also good at doing the Hulk.
I can tell you that he's a great Yosemite Sam in the new Looney Tunes cartoons.
But yes, you're right. He also voices the Berserker. So I guess he's just good at being cast as Hulk-like characters. But I can tell that the roles that I heard him, using his normal tone of voice, are just equally as fine. Hell, he might not be at all like Jeff Bridges, but for a normal type of voice, if you didn't give any context, the way he sounded for Obadiah Stane in the Iron Man game was relatively serviceable. If only, everything else in the game would have accommodated to that, but I'm only talking about the tone of voice here.
When it comes to D. Bradley Baker, I recognized his ROM voice sort of similar because it's similar to his voice that he used for Appa in Nightmares and Daydreams.
Wow. Even
Yes, I know. Fascinating, isn't it?
no. I was apparently even the comics don't care about Alicia Valera. She only showed
No,
up
I
in she only showed up in this DLC and she only shows up in that one photo moment in Gears 5, but that's it.
Oh,
That's the thing that I
wow. So she
mentioned.
got
The
Will
guy,
Smith
who
from
smokes the
Independence
cigar,
Day.
the protagonist who smokes the cigar, and Alicia are the ones who get like remembered in Gears 5. The others will definitely I know that have some presence in the comic. Ty and Kim, for sure.
And those guys have
and also
other games.
Jason.
that
Those guys,
help
well,
out.
those guys have actually some kind of relation to the Delta Squad, so that doesn't surprise me.
This is all kind of like an inverse situation of be remembered a new guy trope, basically.
The ironic. So the two newest members, the leader and Alicia.
Well,
are
technically,
the two
Kim.
least-
Well, technically, Kim is the leader of the Zeta Squad. It's just that we play as this guy for some reason.
Ow. I wouldn't know.
I don't know,
I
Jova.
forgot about that.
Well, Marcus at first was not the sergeant anyway, so I
Well,
guess the
yeah.
thought purpose was kind of the same.
Well, it's a thing. Well, it's a thing. At the beginning of
Marcus
Gears
was
1.
the leader of his squad at the very least.
Well, it's a thing, Jova. In Gears 1, he starts off as part of Kim's, because in between this and Gears 1, apparently Kim was assigned as the new leader of the Delta Squad. Problem is, so Marcus and the others were working under him, but then when Rom killed Kim, that's when the
He
general
was promoted, yeah.
promoted him to Sarge. So that's when Marcus became the new sergeant.
That's
He-
another thing that I noticed. I don't know if it's expanded in comics that tells the story about After 3, but I'm actually surprised that the games never continued the trend and had had Marcus staying just a sergeant instead of actually ranking up higher and higher.
Well, actually, Teo, that's the thing. I can speak for the comics, mind you, but I can speak for Gears 4 and 5, and he never really took any major, like, let's just say, Teo, he never raised in ranks. I'll just say that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm surprised that the franchise never went that route, because you would think that it would be something logical. Oh, you have this character that starts from the bottom that
Well,
becomes
keep in mind-
increasingly...
Well, keep in mind, Teo, the first 20 years after the end of Gears 3 was a time of peace, so it's not like the military
Not
was
just
that needed
that,
at that point.
As thanks to his characterization, we know that Marcus doesn't really care about the position of power.
Not to mention,
yeah.
not to mention, Teo, the Gears 5 previously in Gears video clearly establishes that right after the ending of Gears 3, Marcus and Anya settled down to have a family,
Yeah.
and that's when JD. So Marcus kind of retired, kind of. He was later brought. He was later forced back into being a gear, of course. But for the first 20 years, there was genuine peace, and Marcus decided to just retire and fuck this shit. I want to, just chill right now. So
Yeah. All right then.
all right, see you for the next part, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.